Hello, it's time for the Dragoncraft Gloryfinder deck breakdown. Just like with all the other videos, there's a few notes before we begin. 1. This only includes cards up until the Omen of the 10 booster pack, because we haven't had time to update them. 2. We only allow cards in the class and neutrals, and there's 3 neutral cards banned, which are Odin, Olivia, and Lyriel. Other than that, everything's fair game, with standard Gloryfinder rules. So Dragon is in a bit of a bad spot. In the Gloryfinder bundle, it focused on only 4 classes. Those were Sword, Rune, Abyss, and Haven. So those classes got a lot of very good specific Gloryfinder cards. However, the 2 classes that were not included, Forest and Dragon, only got 1 newly printed Gloryfinder card. In Forest's case, that card was actually very good, in fact a win condition in and of itself. And surprisingly, the Forest deck turned out to be on par. Dragoncraft, on the other hand, did not get a particularly good card. In fact, the card is so bad that I don't even think it's a good run in this current deck. That Gloryfinder card is Dragon Rain Quake. So it's a quick spell which costs 1 if you are a dragon, not 4. Select 2 followers on the field and make them attack each other, pretty much. So to use this optimally, it's like a 2 target removal for 1 play point, which is okay. It can be impactful, but it's not particularly game breaking. You can't hit face with any of the followers picked, you just make them attack each other. So that is the only support Dragoncraft got in Gloryfinder. And the rest of the card pool for Dragoncraft only is a little bit tricky to create a decent deck with. A lot of Dragoncraft's strength is being able to run multiple copies of key cards. When you're limited to just 1 copy, it's tricky. Now, I played around a lot with different archetypes until I finally settled with the best performing one. It's actually the Phoenix Roost meme deck. So what does Phoenix Roost do? It's a 5 playpoint amulet. At the start of each player's main phase, that player looks at the top card of their deck. If it's a follower, they may just put it on the field. So what's the goal of Phoenix Roost? Is you fill your deck with all high cost, powerful followers, and then just cheat them out. Here's the problem. It applies to all players, and since there's 4 players in a Gloryfinder match, they are also going to get a lot of value as well. The second problem with this card is that in order to make use of it, the entire deck has to be built around it. And because the entire deck is built around it, if this gets removed, which is likely eventually, what are you supposed to do? You're just swinging down 1 high cost card every turn, which is probably not powerful enough to win the game. So this is our Gloryfinder card. There's really nothing else you can run, just because of the inherent low power of a singleton Dragoncraft deck. I'm really hoping it gets some support in the future, but who knows. Now, Phoenix Roost being the glory card is also why it feels a little bit bad to run spells. Any spells, in fact. When you have Phoenix Roost in play, if you look at the top card of the deck and it is not a follower, basically you just wasted 5 play points for nothing, and you gave other people probably more advantage as well. So yeah, I mean, Phoenix Roost in the digital game was a meme for a reason. Despite that though, we do run a couple of other spells. I think maybe 5 total cards are not followers in the deck. So you do have to be kind of unlucky to see them off of Phoenix Roost. One of those spells is, we're now going in order from lowest cost to highest cost in the deck, Dragon Oracle. Dragon Oracle, I'm sure you know what this does. It's run in pretty much every single Dragoncraft deck. However, I think this is probably a cut. Even in the current booster packs, I think it's a cut. So why is that? Of course, ramp is good. You get a lot of power after you ramp. However, Dragon Oracle is not as powerful when you already start at 3 play points. So you have what? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You have 6 turns to draw this and help you ramp. Past that, you basically only use it as a 2 play point draw a card. So it loses half of its power. The point of ramp is to get ahead of your opponents. However, the higher the total play point count, the less this matters. A turn 2 Dragon Oracle is very powerful. A turn 5 Dragon Oracle is kind of bad. In addition to that, it's also a spell which you don't want to see off of Phoenix Roost. So, you know, it's not really a good pick. Now, why have I included it in this build? It's because I like to gamble a bit. If you do see it in your starting hand, you can get out Phoenix Roost 1 turn earlier, which can make all the difference. Right? The entire deck is a high roll deck. You want to slam this down and pull a 9 or 10 drop follower and then just snowball off of that. Because it's a high roll deck, we run another high roll card. Now, the downside is that if you don't get it turn 1 or turn 2, it becomes a low roll brick. But hey, I honestly can't see any other way for a Dragoncraft Gloryfinder deck at the moment to keep up with any other class without resorting to a high roll Gamba. Okay, but we'll get into followers now. There's only one other 2-cost card, again because we want to abuse the Phoenix Roost cheating. That's Shapeshifting Mage. Shapeshifting Mage is a 2 play point 2/2 fanfare. If Overflow is active for you, give this follower 3+3+3. Now, the stat line is the main reason why we are able to get away with running a 2 play point card. Otherwise, this would feel very bad to pull off a Phoenix Roost. Right? If you pull a 2/2/2, that is a terrible, terrible pull. If you pull a 2/5/5, well, that's not bad. It also has a decent evolution. 1 play point to gain Assail and Bane, not too bad. It can be a removal if needed. The reason why we don't run any other 1 or 2 drops is because, well, they're weak. You don't want to pull them off of Phoenix Roost. And you start at 3 anyway. Right? Dragoncraft in the constructed format is all about surviving the early turns until you can get up to 5, 6, 7. That is one of the main weaknesses that is removed in Gloryfinder because you always start at 3. So in general, the lucky thing is that Dragoncraft's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cost followers are generally more powerful than other classes. Despite this though, it's not that great of a difference, and it's not to the point where Dragon has a significant advantage by starting at 3 compared to everyone else, because everyone else starts at 3. We'll move on. It's Sybil of the Waterworm, a classic Dragoncraft card. Fanfare: if Overflow is active for you, give this follower +1/+1 and increase your max play points by 1. Okay, so you play this on turn 7 and you get to 10 a bit faster. It's alright. You're not really playing this for the ramp. You're playing this just because it's a generally good minion. The second effect says, at the start of your end phase, give your leader +1 health or +2 if Overflow is active. So in total, it's a 4/5, heal 2, possibly ramp 1 if you're past Overflow. Not bad. It's just a solid, decent card. So why not run it? In this case, actually, the cost is an advantage. So one of the downsides of running a lot of high cost cards is that you can only play 1 per turn. Right? If you have 2 6 cost cards in hand, you can only play 1 of them. What do you do with the other 4? Well, you could play something that's just generically good like Sybil or Shapeshifting Mage. These low cost but high statted minions, when they're in Overflow, are especially useful for this deck to be able to use your play points efficiently. Another example of this is Zernitra. Fanfare: put a dragon into your EX area. 2 play point tap, select a dragon in your EX area, put it on the field, give it Rush. And if Overflow is active for you, this effect is free. Again, just a pretty solid card. So, it becomes a 3 play point 3/2 plus a 4/4 rush. Which, hey, it's not bad. It's a decent amount of tempo. And, you know, just a spare dragon token can be useful at times. Again, if you have 2 6 play point cards, you can play 1 of them and the dragon, which is 4 play points. Next we have the Master of Draconic Arts. This has Assail and Ward, so not bad. Fanfare: if Overflow is active for you, gain +4 in Rush. So, essentially it's a 6/4 Rush Assail Ward for just 3. Very good, right? Just another nice card to fill in the playpoint curve. Also, you're not too sad if you pull it off Phoenix Roost. Next, one of my favorite cards actually, it's the Hippocampus. What is this card? 3 playpoint 1/5 ward with Evolve 4. Evolve 4 is pretty intense. However, if I remember correctly, the newest Haven cards, Lemonia, is like Evolve 5 or something, so hey, Hippocampus looks cheap in comparison to that. But you evolve 4, you become a 7/7 beatstick, losing the ward. I love this card. It's such a meme. It's so funny and it's so fun to play. So, in general, like if you want to pull off the meme, you don't ward this card. When you play it, you don't ward. You just leave it. 5 health is pretty difficult to deal with. And basically, since it's 3 play points, you can just slam it turn 1. Turn 1, there's practically no card that an opponent can use to deal with it. Then you evolve for 4 on your next turn and swing 7 into someone. So a very funny card to have in your opening hand. And again, it's just another high roll aspect of the deck. Another kind of meme card is the Red Rage Worm. So I used to run a very janky Red Rage Worm deck. Which it was like basically it just ran big stats in every single PP cost. And so it just relied on out-tempoing the opponent and hoping that they couldn't deal with it. This is exactly the same thing. So 5 health. If you tap, gains 5 attack. If you tap an overflow, it gains 10. What you do is you play it in overflow, tap to gain 10, and then hope it doesn't get removed so that you can swing 10 next turn. Or you could tap for 10. If it doesn't get removed, tap to make it 20. And then suddenly there's some tricky combos you could pull off, right? A 20 attack card? Anyway, we'll move on from the memes. These are some actually good 3-drop followers now. First is Seiyun Sky. Just a nice 2-3 Storm with Intimidate. Nothing much else to say here. I think she's super cute. She's a super cute Uma Musume. The Intimidate is also quite annoying. So opponents will have to use up a removal spell for this. Although generally just one removal spell is fine, because it only has 3 health. If it had 4 health, then it's actually a little bit trickier to remove. But 3 is a balanced number, you could say. Still, 2 Storm Face for 3 is decent, and the next turn it would be 3 Storm if it survives, so it does keep getting value. Next one is Ayla Dragon Knight. Now, I have said that ramp is not as good in this deck, and you've seen 3 ramp cards already. So I'm not being hypocritical. The ramp is not the best. However, the reason this one is run is again to try and high roll. Now, is it good? No. But can you high roll? Yes. It's like buying the lottery ticket. Will you likely win nothing? Yeah. Will you win the jackpot? No, but it's possible. In this case, a 3-2, which ramps you is fine. It does have a sail as well, which can be a little bit useful. But the main reason we run it is just because it's a 3 cost, so it can fill in your curve. You're not too sad to see it off Phoenix. And also, Ayla is just a classic Dragoncraft card as well. And I did pull the reverse foil, premium foil, which is beautiful. So yeah, I'm just a Shadowverse boomer. Like, I can't help but run all the classic cards. Next one is a neutral one, Pure-Hearted Singer. Fanfare Last Words draw 2. Not really much else to say here, just a great card. Yeah. Fanfare, just a 3 play point draw 2 on a body. The body is the most important part, because again, it can be pulled. If it were a spell instead, you'd be very unhappy seeing it. Next card is a 3 play point follower. However, we shouldn't really consider it one. It's Grimnir. 3 play point ward. Evolve for 2. And then you have an evolve effect. On evolve 4, deal 4 damage to each enemy leader and follower. So that's a very strong effect. However, it costs 3 plus 2 plus 4, 9 play points. So actually, this is a 9 play point follower. You almost never want to play it as 3. If you pull it off of Phoenix Roost, you can actually get it down though. So why is this? Because when you play Phoenix Roost, you're guaranteed to have 5. If you see this off the top, you don't have to pay the summon cost, and you will have at least 6 play points. So you evolve for 2, and you pay the 4 effect, is an immediate 4 damage to everything. So it's actually a very good card to pull off of Phoenix Roost. It's a very nice high roll card. That's why it's included. Also, you can just hard cast it from hand, that's also pretty good. Alright, we're moving on to 4-drops now. Dragon has quite a lot of very nice 4-drops. The first one being Siegfried. Fanfare. Select an enemy follower on the field, deal it 2. With an evolve, select an enemy follower with 3 defense or less on the field and destroy it. So it's not a particularly powerful card. It's just okay, I would say. Especially in Gloryfinder, the defense restriction on this evolve is quite limiting. I would rate it a 4 out of 10 card, which you can easily replace with a better card in one of the newer expansions. So yeah, I would definitely recommend replacing this at some point. It's just okay at the moment. And the reason we run cards like these is because in the format that we're running, which is only up until Omen of the 10, there's not too many good followers yet that have been printed. So this is just the best, let's say the 40th best card, or the 35th best card, and all the rest are worse. Next we have Seabrand Dragon. This is just a 4/4 storm. Now you do have to be in Overload, but that's very easy in Gloryfinder, you know. Start with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You just wait 4 turns, 3 turns. 4/4 storm. It's perfect. It's just 1 less than the Forte. Next we have an Elder Tortoise. So pretty bad stats, however it does gain +2/+2, so it's just 5/7, it's not bad. And on Fanfare you gain an Evo point if overflow. The Evo point it can be useful actually, it can make the difference. And depending on if you start 1st, 2nd or 3rd, you might be limited in Evo points. So it's not a bad drop. Again, it's like one of those earlier 2 or 3 drops that gain stats when you're in Overflow. So it's not just a 3/5, it's a 5/7, which is a fine stat line. It's a decent stat line. Next we have Mist Dragon. We're really seeing some interesting cards in here, yeah? But like I said, you know, we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to finding decent cards to run in each slot. Mist Dragon is just a 4/4/4 Intimidate. Intimidate, though, is a very annoying effect. In fact, I would say probably the most annoying. So you need a spell or a board wipe to get rid of this. You can't attack into it, and it's basically free damage every turn, even when it's tapped. With Aura, at least you can, let's say, rush into it with a sail, but Intimidate it's better than it looks. It can be quite annoying and hard to deal with. That being said, Mist Dragon is, would I give it a 4 out of 10? That would be quite funny, but I think I'll actually give it a 5 out of 10 in terms of power. It's surprisingly difficult to get rid of, especially with 4 health. If it was 3, then a lot more removal spells would be able to remove it. However, with 4, it's just out of range. It's quite nice, actually. Next we have Silver Automaton. Is a ward. Last words, put 2 puppet tokens into your EX area. I really like this card, actually. Now, the base card itself is not great. You know, the ward can be fine. That's fine. However, the last words is really, really nice. Having 2 puppet followers sounds like kind of weak, but 2 reasons it's very strong. One is it fills in your curve if you need to. And two, it does deal with like low cost followers. Sorry, low health followers. For instance, let's say you have an opponent card that only has 1 health left. Typically, Dragon is putting down big threat after big threat. And do you really want to run your rush, 7 attack, 7 health rush minion into a 5-1 opponent minion? No, not really. That's kind of a waste. And so instead you can just chuck out a puppet and it'll be all good. So I really like this. I didn't expect this card to feel so good in the deck when I first added it in. But I was surprised. It's very versatile and useful. Next we have a twin-headed dragon. This is a decent pull off of Phoenix Roost, mainly because of its fanfare ability. So if you pay 3, you summon a dragon, which, oh, I misspoke before, a dragon is a 5-5, not a 4-4. So you basically have a 7-10 in terms of stats for a 3 play point cost if it's pulled off of Phoenix Roost. You can also just play it for 4, which is maybe you'll fill in the curve, but probably if you're at the point where you have 7 or more play points, you do want to play it for the fanfare enhance. And also has a skill of its own. This follower deals double attack damage to leaders and double combat damage to followers. So it's a 4-5, pretty much. There's actually not a lot, I don't think any buff cards in the deck, so you can't get it up to like, I don't know, 10-10 or something like that, but it's still alright, Next one. It's the one and only Forte 5-1 Storm. Everyone loves Forte. She's definitely the face of Dragoncraft. Now this is a Japanese version, Japanese SL, which I bought online, just because, you know, Forte is just such a great character, and I didn't want to buy the English one because it was a bit expensive. So this is imported all the way over from Japan, just the iconic, beautiful card. Finisher for many decks. In our case, it's just a good, it's just a good 4-drop. Right? You can't say no to 5 Storm. But of course, you can also evolve it for 2 to make it become a 7-3 Storm Aura. Aura now means that someone has to trade into it, and because of its high attack, it's going to trade 1 for 1. So the opponent will have to run a 3 or 4 attack follower into it in order to get rid of it. They can't really get rid of it cleanly with a spell. And plus you do 7 face. 7 face for 6 play points or 5 plus 1 evolve. Very strong burst. And if you pull it off Phoenix Roost, it's 2 play points, 7 Storm. Or 1 play point, 1 evolve for 7 Storm. It's just, hey, big Storm face. You're going to see a decent amount of that as we go along. Okay, and we do run a few neutrals. The first one is Erd. This is just a nice removal spell. Dragoncraft doesn't have any other banish effects. Can't deal with EX area stuff except for Erd. Erd is basically select an enemy follower field, put it into the owner's EX area. Then if you evolve for 1, you banish a card in an EX area. So just a nice tech card to deal with stuff you wouldn't be able to get rid of otherwise. For example, Intimidate. Although not many other classes have Intimidate. Amulets. Your only amulet destruction is probably Bahamut, which, spoiler alert, we do run Bahamut, although that's pretty obvious, right? Why wouldn't you run Bahamut? Yeah, just a very versatile tech card for removal. It's not the strongest, but I think it is quite needed for a build like this where we don't run many spells. So it's basically, if we can get any spell effect on a follower instead, That's much better for a Phoenix Roost deck. Next we have Archangel Reina, which when you evolve it for 4+1, recover play points equal to the number of face-up evolve followers and turn them face down. Dragoncraft does not have a lot of recursion in the deck, right? There's, I think, maybe one card which puts cards from the graveyard back into the deck. So it's not really used for that, although it can make a difference. The main reason I'm using or running this card is just for the tempo. So for instance, what can happen is if you've built up a lot of evolved followers, let's say you pull this off of Phoenix Roost, it becomes free and you have 6 play points. You can spend 5, evolve, regain 4, then play a 4. So you can have a massive tempo swing if you hit this card off of Phoenix Roost, or even just playing it raw. Plus it's a decent statted ward as well. 5/6 ward. That's the main reason I run it. So, you know, sometimes there are some classes which can just deal with a single threat every turn very efficiently. However, if you start to flood with a lot of major threats, that can cause problems. Archangel Reina does help with that. Although, I'll be honest, you know, I'm open to suggestions to replace this. It's kind of a niche situation, again a high roll situation. There probably is something better to run in its place, I just haven't thought of it yet. Last 4-drop is a Gloryfinder exclusive card. It's Athena. Athena is last words deal 3 damage to an enemy leader, and this is also one of the few defensive cards that Dragoncraft runs. So its effect is, when it's reserved on your field, so straight up, it takes damage instead of you. That means if someone hits you for 5, this takes 5. And I'm pretty sure this is how the ruling works. If someone hits you for 8, this takes 8, but you don't take the other 2. It just gets hit for 8, and then gets discarded, and the last word triggers. So a very nice defensive tool. It's basically gains 6 HP for 4 play points, with a body and 3 damage to someone. A very overloaded card, I would say. It's not like broken, but it is very strong, a little bit overloaded. But that's what you would expect from a Gloryfinder exclusive card. So that's why we run it. The power level is just generally high. Moving on, we are going into the 5-drops. The first 5-drop is of course the limited and constructed Shenlong. Shenlong, 5 play point for 5, fanfare, draw 2 cards, discard a card. Just a very good effect, right? Draw 2 cards, very good on a minion, or I should say follower, but I'm just too used to minions and stuff. So follower, and you don't really mind discarding a card because you just discard your worst card in your hand. And the Evo is just gain 5 HP, which is a decent amount, to be honest. You do start with 30, which is 10 more than in 1v1, so it means a little less, but hey, 5 extra health is nothing to be sniffed at. Plus it's a ward, plus it has rush. This is just everything you would want in a card. And we're getting to the point now, any card that costs 5 or more, if you pull it off of Phoenix Roost, you already get the refund of the play points. So any card 5 or above, so any card after this, including this, you're suddenly really happy to see off of Roost. You've got the play points back or even exceeded it already. And so this does end up being a little under half the deck now, which is as much as I could fit in. There just weren't any other cards 5 or greater worth running past a little under half the deck. As more booster packs come out though, I'm expecting to be able to run up to 75% of the deck as 5 costs or higher, but we'll see. Anyway, very good card. It is limited for a reason and constructed, and well, we're lucky that it's limited to 1 in Gloryfinder inherently. Next is Cetus. Cetus is just a 5/5 with Evolve 1 effect. Destroy each of the lowest cost enemy followers on the field. Now, this is a very interesting effect. So, this is actually technically a destruction effect that goes through almost everything except something like Aegis. What I mean by that is it doesn't target, so it goes through aura. It doesn't say like discard, or it doesn't like discard inherently, so it can go past like certain effects. The only effect it can't get around is like something like Seraph or Aegis, which says it can't be destroyed by effects, right? But it goes through aura, which is the most important thing. The only restriction, of course, is that it's the lowest cost enemy followers. And with 4 players, well, 3 opponents, there's likely going to be like maybe a 1 or 2 drop on the field somewhere, in which case this doesn't really get much value. If there is like a 5 drop on the field and it is a low cost, it is the lowest cost follower, this does get some very good value. However, that is actually not often. And it's not even often that you discard more than 1 or destroy more than 1 follower. Because, you know, what's the chance that there's going to be 2-3 cost followers on the field, right? If that's the lowest. So, even though theoretically this effect is very good and gets around some inherent protections of some cards, I actually haven't found myself in a situation where it mattered yet in the games I've played with this. You know, theoretically it can get rid of something like the Runecraft Aura mech. Theoretically it can get through that. However, practically, that's never happened. Next we have Grass Wander. 5/5/5, Fanfare, deal 2 damage to each enemy follower on the field. This is just a board wipe. It doesn't even wipe, it just tickles. 2 damage is not a lot at all. But hey, it's 5 play points and it's a 5/5. You can't really complain that much. Also, you can race it to rush, so it's okay. I would say it's a 5 out of 10, but honestly, the effects are not that good, so 4 out of 10. Next is Wyvern Cavalier. Fanfare, put the top card of your deck in your EX area and it costs 2 less to play. Even though the card itself is just a 5/5/5, the fanfare is quite good. So it's a draw 1, reduced by 2. And that can really help with play point efficiency. So, for instance, a 7 cost goes to a 5. Suddenly you can play a 5 and a 5 on that turn. A 6 cost becomes a 4, so suddenly you could play a 6 and a 4 together. A 9 cost becomes a 7, so there's a possibility that you can play a 7 and a 3. Whereas, if it's just 9, you know, you can't play anything with it. So it has some uses, right? And it's just not a bad card. It's decently good. 5 attack, 5 health. Again, for all these 5 cost followers with 5 attack, 5 health, it's a decently good stat line. Quite beefy, quite threatening. You do want to get rid of it. if you just keep playing 5/5s every turn, like, if not many classes can deal with a 5/5 every single turn. If you just keep doing that, they're going to run out of resources and defensives very quickly. But that is assuming that they don't kill you first, which is unfortunately quite a possibility. Next is a 5 play points for 4. But if you evolve for 2, it does become the 5/5. Anyway, what's the effect? The effect is Fanfare, summon a Megalorca token, which is a 2/2. While it's on the field, your Megalorcas have Rush. Now when you evolve it, you summon another Megalorca token, and then they have Storm. So it's a 5+2, 7 play point, 4 attack Storm. Pretty good, right? Just very good. And the best thing about these kind of evolve followers is that these evolve effects are always balanced around you paying for the cost originally. So like a 7 play point 4/4 Storm is pretty valuable. However, if you cheat it out with Phoenix Roost, suddenly it becomes broken. Right? You're only paying 2 for a 4/4 Storm. Even if you don't though, it's just a very solid good card to dump on the board. So yeah, no reason not to run it. Next is Altea Holy Angel, a Gloryfinder card. Rush Assail, Fanfare, deal 5 damage to each enemy neutral follower on the field. That Fanfare doesn't matter too much. If you get it off, that's good, right? It's fine. The main thing though is just a Rush Assail, which is very useful in certain circumstances. So yeah, it's just a nice card, right? Nothing much else to say. It's run in Sword, I've talked about it before, but yeah, just a generically good, powerful card. Gloryfinder exclusive, of course. Then we have 2 spells. Now, I don't like running spells, as I've said before, but these 2 just seem to be so good that you can't do without. The first one is Conflagration. Deal 5 to each follower on the field. So you need a board clear. If you get swarmed as dragon, it's kind of hard to recover. So you do need a board clear to stabilize at some point, and Conflagration is 5 play point, 5 to everybody. You know, it gains a lot of value if there's 3 opponents, especially if their boards are pretty full. So yeah, even though you don't like to see it off of Phoenix Roost, I think you can't get away with not running it. You just have to have something like this in your deck. Similarly, Lightning Blast. Now, this does only select 1 follower. However, you can pay 10 to banish every follower on the field. It is a quick as well, which I've never used. In fact, I've never used a 10 play point banish either. But a single target removal is still fine. And it's a banish as well, which is extremely important. There's a lot of last word effects there, which can be quite detrimental. So yeah, I've only really been able to use it as a 5 play point removal, banish. However, maybe you do run into a situation where you do need to do the 10. The quick is also pretty useful, however, I haven't been in a situation to use the quick. I don't know, I just don't have enough experience with this card yet in the deck. I just haven't been able to draw or use it much, but I'm pretty sure it's a mandatory include as well. So, Moving on is the 6-drop cards. 6 drops, some very nice cards in here. We'll start off with the Levantine Dragon. Levantine Dragon, the gimmick is that you can evolve into different forms for 1. So the first form we run is Attack Mode. It's a 7/5 strike. Select an enemy follower on the field, deal it 4 damage and 3 to its leader. Very powerful. It trades 2 for 1 and does 3 damage to the leader. Just generically good. So with attack form, of course, we also run the defense form. This is a 5/7 with ward. Reduce damage to this followed by 1. That's actually... it's okay. You know, it completely shuts down stuff like tokens and fairies. However, in Gloryfinder, you know, it's more likely people will have high attack followers, so that passive doesn't do as much. At the start of your end phase, give your leader plus, how much is it? 3? It's okay. It's okay. It's not really something you really want unless you're like on the ropes. So most of the time, I would say you'll be going into attack form. However, we do just include the defense form just in case you need it. It's quite nice to have the flexibility. And also, luckily enough, we do have enough room to run this. However, right? We just have enough room to run this card, although it is getting quite tight. Like, this is the 20th card of the Evolved deck. If you're going to be replacing a card in the Evolved deck, probably going to be this one, unfortunately. We don't run the other two because they're just not as good. They're like armed follower support, which any kind of trait support in these kind of Gloryfinder, Highlander, one-of decks is quite hard to pull off. Next is Scaled Berserker, which has Rush. Whenever this follower deals damage, give it +2/+2. Now, it's not particularly strong, but it does have Rush. And Rush is good enough. Often. So when you pull it off of Phoenix Roost, it's not just a big stat stick. It can actually do something on that turn. And it does become an 8 attack, let's say 3 or 4 cost. Hey, which is not bad. If you run into a 1 attack follower, which does happen, it becomes what? An 8/8? Which is, I mean, that's better than the Hippocampus, which automatically makes it OP, right? So it's a good card. I give it a 6 out of 10. Next, an absolutely crucial card for the deck. King Halo. This has an insane fanfare, which is choose one of the following. Put the top 3 cards of your deck into the EX area. It's basically a draw 3. And the second effect doesn't trigger because we don't have that Uber Musume card in the deck. But it doesn't matter. The first effect is so powerful that it's basically a draw 3 that doesn't use up hand size. Hand size can be a bit of a problem in this deck because you just draw all these high cost followers and you can only play 1 per turn. Right? So you can't really dump your hand that easily. So having it in your EX area is just like having a hand size of max 10. Very good. Now, of course, things can get banished in your EX area. However, it's actually more likely that cards get discarded from your hand than they get banished from the EX area, just by the number of effects that do such things in the game. So yeah, no reason not to slam this down whenever you can. Just an excellent card. Continuing on with Uma Musume, we have Augury Cap. I'd say quite an infamous finisher card. So if you race it 3 times, it becomes a 6/7. Wait, it gains 6/3. With a 10/7 storm. If you discard 2 cards and strike, deal 3 damage to each enemy followed on the field. Like, I mean, this card is insane, right? It's absolutely broken. Of course, you do have to use 3 of your evolve slots to get this, but luckily, Gloryfinder, we run 20. We have 20 slots. So we are very easily able to run the 3 carrots needed to bring this to the max potential. Let me just check my maths again. So it's plus 6, 3. Yeah, it becomes a 10-7 rush. Discard 2 cards to make it storm. Strike, deal 3 damage to each enemy following the field. Like, it's overloaded. It's so broken. Yeah, what else is there to say? You don't really mind about the discard because, as we said with the previous card, King Halo, you often have 5, 6, 7 cards in hand naturally, just because you can't play like 2 cards every turn. You usually just one big one, one big one, one big one. Now I have spoiled the Evo deck a little bit. We do run 3 carrots plus 1 extra. There's only 2 other, I think, Umusume followers in the deck. King Halo is one of them. So you do have 1 extra carrot to potentially rush one of them. However, you definitely want to be saving 3, or at least 2, to pull off Ogre Cap's big effect. Next is another Umusume card, but not an actual horse. It's Riko Kashimoto, Planned Perfection. Rush, strike if there are no other followers on your field, select the enemy follower on the field, destroy it, and deal 3 damage to its leader. So it's a 6 play point targeted destroy with 6/6 and deal 3 damage. The good thing is that not having any other followers on your field is pretty often. Right? If you do have another follower on the field, you're already at advantage, right? You're already snowballing. So you don't really care that this strike requires 0. That's what you expect. What you expect is you play a big threat and the opponent has to answer it or they lose. Right? So they answer it. Next turn, another big threat. They have to answer it or they lose. And then, since your board is always empty, when you do play this, you always get the effect. If they don't answer it, you have a big one, they don't answer it, you can still play this. It doesn't matter. You're already in the lead if you have a big one out. But generally you save it, right? It is 6/6 rush just on its own without the effect, which is not bad. But definitely use it for the effect because it's reasonably easy to meet the requirement. Last card that is 6 cost, it is Zodiac Demon. Tap. Discard a follower. Select an enemy follower on the field, deal damage equal to the discard follower's cost. Deal its leader damage equal to half that cost. So this is another solution to having a large hand. Right? You have a hand, you can't play all those high cost cards. How about you just turn them into storm damage, right? You discard them, deal 9 to a follower, and round it up, so 5 to a leader. That's good, right? 6 play points, deal 10 follower, deal 5 to a leader. Plus, it's a tap, so you can do it immediately as you play it, and it's got decent stats. It's a 6/6. You only really need to trigger it once for it to be good, so yeah. Now we're getting into the big boys territory. First up, Colossal Construct. Fanfare, return 5 cards from your cemetery to your deck. Shuffle it. Set the enemy follower on the field, deal it 5 damage. So, this is the only card that can recur stuff in your cemetery. What do you want to pull with this? Well, Phoenix Roost. It's very likely that Phoenix Roost gets removed at some point during the game, either sooner or later. So you do want to save this to shuffle this in and potentially draw it again. Like, this deck relies on Phoenix Roost so much to close things out. It's often not enough to go big one, big one, big one with the current power level of the other Gloryfinder decks and their specific Gloryfinder cards. So if you don't have Phoenix Roost, you're kind of in a tough position. This at least allows you to potentially get it back. The ward, the stats, and the 5 damage is just a bonus. So yeah, I would say definitely save it for Phoenix Roost. And also, this is another reason why we run the Archangel Reina, because potentially you can get another evolve on those cards you send back. Next, just a solid good card. Dread Dragon, 7 cost, 7/7, deal 7 damage to an enemy follower. Perfect. I love it. 7/7/7/7. What more could you ask for? The designers knew what they were doing with this card, and I love it. 7 Dragon. Next one, Jabberwocky. Right, this is an interesting card. Fanfare. Put another follower from your field into its owner's cemetery. Reveal a top card of your deck until you reveal a follower that costs more than the follower, and summon it. Right. So depending on which follower you discard, you can guarantee yourself like a 7, 8, 9, even 10 cost follower. This is a bit of a snowball card, but think of it, right? It only costs 7. There's a decent number of 3 play point cards in the deck. You can play your 3, then play your 7, and probably hit another 7 when revealing, right? Just because of the curve of the deck. So, highly recommended. It's again another high roll card, like Gamba, but heck, we've gone all into that, right? This is what? This is high roll dragon. That's what I'll call the deck. It's not Phoenix Roost Dragon, it's high roll dragon. Okay, but maybe something a bit more sensible and consistent, if you want to call it that. It's Champion's Passion. Now I know, Amulet, Phoenix can't pull this, but this Amulet is just infinite value. It's so good. You play this against some decks, they have no answer for it. What does it do? Fanfare, if there's a Umumusme card in your field, so the enemy follower on the field, deal it 4 damage. Okay, that doesn't really matter. We don't really run enough Umumusme, and we don't care about the Fanfare actually. But at the start of your main phase, select an enemy follower or leader and deal it 4 damage. So every turn, you're dealing 4 damage to something. It's infinite 4 damage value. And like I said, some decks just can't keep up with it. They can't deal with it. So if you manage to drop it and not die and protect yourself every turn, or apply enough pressure every turn, this can get you the win. This is one of the only other cards in the deck which can let you grind it out and win. So very important to run this, even though it is an amulet, and it does kind of suck to see off a Phoenix Roost. Next, Gilgamesh. 7 play point, 6/6 Storm. 6/6 Storm. What else is there to say? Next, Lucifer. Lucifer is a 7 play point evolve for 0 ward. At the start of your end phase, you can heal 4. Or if you do evolve, at the start of your end phase, deal 4 to each enemy leader. Right, this is an extremely huge threat. And if you pull it off of Phoenix Roost, it's like, wow, you're just applying so much pressure on the board. Generally, you wouldn't really care about the 4, you just evolve it immediately, and it's evolve 0, remember, very easy to pull off. And deal 4 damage to each enemy leader is 12 in total. That's a lot. You know, you have 3 opponents. Plus it has Bane, plus it has 8/7. I guess the Bane doesn't really matter so much. But the main thing is you don't have to attack with it. You can just keep it reserved, deal 4 damage every turn. So they'll have to find like a targeted removal spell, or maybe a board clear, or an assail or something. But yeah, it's a little bit tricky to get rid of when you just keep it reserved the entire time. So don't attack with it, don't rush. Just have it sit there and deal 4 damage to everybody at every turn. It's great. Next, it's just Fafnir. I mean, it's not that good, but Fanfare deals 5 damage to each enemy following the field. It's conflagration on a beat stick, which is better than just conflagration. And we do need board clears, right? We don't run many board clears because Dragon doesn't have many board clears. But yeah, this you're just perfectly happy seeing it. And yeah, what else is there to say? You know, that's what I love about Gloryfinder is some of these high cost cards, they suddenly become very strong because you start at 3 and you only have 1 copy of every card. Like you would never run this in a constructed deck, but in a Gloryfinder deck, suddenly it's very good. That is one of the aspects I really love about Gloryfinder is that you just to fill up the numbers, you need to run some like underpowered cards. However, because of the scaling and the rules of Gloryfinder, they're not underpowered. They're just decent, good. So yeah, lovely. Next card is a bit of a meme, I'll be honest. It's Imperial Dragoon. So Fanfare, discard your hand. Deal each enemy leader and follower the number of cards discarded. Do you want to discard your hand? Maybe. Like maybe this can push for the win. Maybe it can push for the win. Let's say you have 7 in hand, well you deal 7 to everything. And that's nothing to be scoffed at. And you do get to renew your hand as well, because if you evolve for 1, you at least draw 3 cards, so at least you get some back. I haven't had a chance to use this card in any of the games I've played with this deck, unfortunately. But I've still kept it in because, you know, I can still see the dream. I still believe in the dream. One day I'll pull it off. One day I'll do 7 damage to everything with Imperial Dragoon. Here's one problem though. You don't really want to see it off Phoenix Roost, do you? If you see it off Phoenix Roost, you're like, oh, wait a minute. I have a lot of good cards in my hand. I don't want to summon this. It's gonna force me to discard my hand. So it's a follower that you don't like seeing off of Phoenix Roost most of the time. That is a problem with it. That is a consideration to make when thinking of cutting it, which you can think of cutting it if you want. However, I think it's worth it to have that, again, high roll potential. Final 8 cost card is Israfil. What else is there really to say? It's just an excellent late game card. 8/8/8, Fanfare, heal 4. Strike, deal 3 to everything. Evolve for 1, strike becomes deal 5 to everything. Not much else to say. I've spoken about Israfil a lot in my previous videos, and you're going to be seeing her in the next deck profile as well. So yeah, just a very strong card. It's no wonder why it's so expensive that I don't want to buy more copies of it. But yeah, it's just super powerful. A lot of decks run it. 9 costs now. Amethyst Giant. Discard a card. Give this follower Rush and Aura. Strike, refresh this follower. Perform only once per turn. So you can play this for just 9. Discarding card is optional. Okay? But if you don't discard a card, it's just a 9/7/7. Doesn't do anything else. Just beast stick. If you do discard the card, against Rush and Aura, so you should always discard a card. And it can swing twice. So you swing once, the passive strike activates, it gets refreshed, then you swing again, and it leaves like that. However, perhaps you do not want to swing twice, or even once, because there's potential next turn, if it can hit face, you strike face for 7, it refreshes. Then you strike face for 7 again, so that's 14 damage face if it survives, right? Again, another high roll card. Even if it has Rush, at least has Aura. So perhaps you don't want to rush into anything, just keep it at 7. 7 is kind of hard to get rid of. Massive threat. Next. Genesis Dragon. 10 attack storm. What else is there to say? Okay, but next, Bahamut. Bahamut, Fanfare, destroy each other follow in the field. If you evolve for 0, destroy each other amulet on the field. This is such an important card. It's an unconditional board clear, so there's no health requirement like with Conflag. And you can destroy amulets, that's very useful. You don't really have too much amulet removal, and other amulets are generally better than your own. Even though you do have that Champion's Passion or whatever it's called, usually if an opponent has amulets, infinite value amulets, they are probably better than yours. So this is pretty much your best counterplay against them. Plus it's an 11/11. Next we have Flame and Glass. We don't run Flame or Glass because we can cheat this out. And we don't worry that the strike does 3 instead of 7. Doesn't really matter that much. It's a 7 attack storm. So that's how you're going to win. You're going to storm all these big followers into their face and hopefully chunk them down for the win. That's about it really. No glass, no flame. The 3 attack, 3 damage AoE is fine. At least it's another board clear, although not a particularly good one I would say. But yeah, 7 attack storm. You just run it. Last but not least, the biggest card in the deck, in more ways than one. It's Hishi Akebono. 10 playpoint 10/10. Give your leader 10. Again, another extremely well designed card from Bushiroad. And I'm not even being ironic in that, you know. I love cards which go 7/7/7/7. And this is 10/10/10/10. I love those cards. They're just so elegant. But yeah, this is like the absolute high roll off of Phoenix Roost. Because you play it, you get a 10/10, you heal 10. All of a sudden, like, you're set for the rest of the game. If you do draw it though, then oh well. But hey, Gamba Gamba Gamba, high roll, high roll, high roll. Okay. Alright, last thing of course is the tokens. So we have 2 puppets for the automaton card, the 4 playpoint ward. We have 2 Mega Lorcas for Neptune, and we have 2 dragons for, you know, whatever the dragon synergy cards. You don't really need them, and 2 is more than enough, I would say. You're not really going to be spamming dragons in this deck. But yeah, that's all. That is all for the deck profile. Thank you so much for watching. If you did make it to the end, I appreciate it. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, feel free to just pin them down, write them down, whatever you want. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video, which is going to be a gameplay showcase. Peace.